The sun had not yet risen above the pine trees when I left the farm to begin checking the monitoring sites we had set up the evening before. Early mornings in Texas always carry a sense of peace, but years of experience have taught me that while people are asleep, the forest is often at its busiest. Every morning, what I look forward to most is not a particular outcome, but the new data that helps explain how the wild boars moved throughout the night. The first site was located in a small clearing deep within the pine forest. Even from a distance, I could see countless fresh tracks and patches of newly rooted soil. As I walked closer, I couldn't hide my surprise at the level of activity recorded there. The scene made it clear that this remained one of the herd's primary travel routes. I spent quite some time examining the direction of the tracks, the entry and exit paths, and the condition of the ground before carefully documenting the entire site. Those seemingly minor details form the foundation for understanding how the boars use this area and help us assess their impact on both the forest and the surrounding grasslands. Around 7 o'clock, as the morning sunlight filtered through the pine trees, I arrived at the second monitoring site. Contrary to my expectations, the area was surprisingly quiet. Only a handful of fresh signs of activity had appeared overnight. To be honest, I felt a little disappointed because just a few days earlier this location had been covered with tracks. But after taking a closer look, I realized this could also be a positive sign. It was possible that the boars had shifted to a different travel route, or that this area was no longer serving as a major gathering point. In wildlife monitoring, a low level of activity is not always bad news. Sometimes it reflects broader changes within the ecosystem. Leaving the pine forest behind, I continued to the third monitoring site near a narrow stretch of grassland. The results there were much the same. The data was not as extensive as I had expected, but it added another important piece to the overall picture. As I compared maps collected over several days, I began noticing a pattern. The wild boars seemed to be spreading out rather than concentrating in just a few fixed locations. That realization left me both curious and eager to see whether the trend would continue in the days ahead. By the time the sun was nearly overhead, I reached the fourth monitoring site. The midday Texas heat made traveling more demanding, yet the surroundings remained remarkably peaceful, with towering oak trees and wide open grasslands stretching into the distance. Once again, the data showed activity levels far lower than those recorded in previous weeks. At first, I was disappointed by the lack of new information, but I soon began looking at it from a more optimistic perspective. If this trend continues over time, it could indicate that the pressure wild boars place on this area is gradually decreasing. While more time will be needed before drawing any firm conclusions, it is certainly a promising sign worth monitoring. After midday, the journey suddenly took on an entirely different rhythm as I arrived at the fifth monitoring site. The freshly overturned soil and the maze of overlapping tracks immediately told me that the area had been extremely active during the night. The amount of evidence recorded there far exceeded anything I had expected. Morgan, who was accompanying me, pointed to the map and explained that this location sits between a water source and a recently harvested field, making it a natural crossroads for multiple travel routes. At that moment, I realized that a difference of just a few hundred meters in the landscape can dramatically influence how wildlife uses its habitat. As the afternoon sun softened and long shadows stretched across the ground, we arrived at the final monitoring site of the day. Even though Texas afternoons always carry a special kind of quiet, the evidence before us revealed a night filled with intense wild boar activity. Fresh tracks, flattened patches of grass, and damp, freshly rooted soil spoke louder than words. I stood silently for a few moments, taking in the entire scene before recording the final observations. On the drive back, I reflected on the day's journey and realized that the greatest value did not lie in any single location, but in the way they all connected. Some areas showed a clear decline in activity, while others remained remarkably active. Those contrasts are what help us better understand the movement patterns of wild boars and make more objective assessments of conditions across the landscape. Every survey ends with new questions, and perhaps that is exactly what makes this work so rewarding to continue. The solution chosen by most Americans is the Jaeger Pro Hog Trap. This trap is considered a more advanced and effective large-scale trapping solution compared to many traditional traps. The Jaeger Pro Trap is set up by installing a panel system surrounding the target area, combined with an automatic gate system to create a clear guided space. The panels are firmly secured and arranged along familiar movement routes to ensure the target moves directly into the trap. The installation is done step by step to make sure the entire trap structure is stable and ready for operation. Unlike manual traps, this entire system is designed for simultaneous trapping, precise, controlled, and remotely managed. After the frame is completed, the gate system and activation mechanism are carefully tested to ensure accurate response when triggered. The gates must close at the same time and fast enough to prevent wild boars from escaping. This testing phase plays an important role in minimizing technical errors and increasing capture efficiency. This type of trap does not rely on force or quick reflexes like older methods. It works based on three principles. Instead of creating pressure, the trap is designed as a neutral behavioral zone where the sounder can move, feed, and interact normally over multiple cycles. This allows the system to fully record the behavior of the entire group before making the decision to trigger the trap. Behavior recognition. Instead of activating when one animal appears, the system only makes the decision when the entire sounder has gathered, including the lead sow and the younger pigs, and when they no longer show signs of caution or hesitation. When the right moment arrives, the trap mechanism is activated in an instant, giving the sounder no time to react and no chance to escape. Right before the trap gate closes, everything looks completely normal. The entire sounder lowers their heads to feed, moving slowly, and none of them show any signs of alertness. Then, in just a split second, the trap gate drops all at once, a clean, decisive sound, with no chasing at all. The pigs barely have time to understand what happened before the entire group is already enclosed inside the trap. It is exactly this perfect timing and complete surprise that keeps every individual contained, while other sounders receive no warning signals at all. As a result, future avoidance behavior does not develop. This is the core advantage that older methods struggle to achieve. Not allowing a single animal to escape, carrying the memory of danger, is exactly why this system can be reused for a long time in safety. Immediately after the trap is activated, the top priority is keeping the sounder stable and reducing stress as much as possible. The space is tightly controlled but still well ventilated, and the animals are quickly observed to ensure there are no serious injuries. Transport is carried out using specialized vehicles, moving in a stable and controlled way. In wild boar management, what happens after a successful trap is just as important as the trapping itself, because even one small mistake can turn into a major risk. In the United States, wild boar control is not simply a reaction, it is part of sustainable agricultural management. The principles placed first include following the law, complying with local regulations, prioritizing humane methods, and aiming for long-term protection of crops and ecosystems. When done correctly, not only do farmers benefit, but the natural environment also becomes more balanced. The most effective solution does not lie in rushed action, but in building a strategy that matches the natural behavior of wild boars. When approached correctly, sounder-based control not only protects crops in the short term, but also brings long-term stability to agriculture and the ecosystem. The first few days, the hogs approached the trap area, but never fully entered. They fed around the edges, stopped, observed. We stayed patient. During this stage, we checked the entire system, from the drop door mechanism to the sensitivity of the trigger device, making sure everything would function perfectly when the real moment arrived. The following night, things began to change. A small group moved deeper inside, no longer stopping at the edges. They started feeding within the trap zone. I monitored everything through the camera system. Once the entire group was fully inside the control area, I activated the system. Bang! The door slammed shut in the darkness. The sound of metal echoed sharply, short, clean, decisive. The hogs scattered in panic, desperately trying to escape, but the locking system held them. Not a single one could break free from this modern trapping system. That was the first confirmation. The trap was working exactly as intended. But I understood that was only the outer edge of the herd. The next morning, we returned to the site. What appeared before us exceeded every expectation. The number of hogs inside the enclosure proved that our plan had succeeded. Even after being captured, the feral hogs continued thrashing violently, trying every possible way to escape. We had to respond quickly, following the proper procedures established by wildlife protection authorities to ensure both safety and humane handling while avoiding unnecessary risks. When everything was finally over, the area slowly returned to its original silence, as if no disturbance had ever happened there at all. The next day, we received reports from local residents about feral hogs invading a nearby ranch. Without hesitation, the entire team moved out immediately. That night, the signals were completely different. More movement, denser activity. This was no longer a small group. It was a large portion of the herd. They approached far more cautiously. The hogs along the outer edge paused longer than usual, as if inspecting the environment. Just one mistake, especially triggering the trap too early, could cause the entire herd to retreat instantly. So I waited. The number inside the trap kept growing, layer by layer. And when the lead hog finally stepped in, I knew the moment had come. Without a second of hesitation, I pressed the trigger decisively. The door slammed shut. Bang! The steel frame shook violently as heavy impacts echoed throughout the area. Inside, the feral hogs fought wildly, throwing all their strength into desperate escape attempts. But the trap system stood firm, completely unmoved by their aggression. As everything slowly calmed down, the true scale of the herd finally revealed itself. Dozens of hogs, adults and piglets alike, were fully contained within the controlled zone. The next morning, we returned once again to inspect the site. This time, the hogs no longer had the strength to struggle as violently as before. Every single one remained secured within a specialized trap system, proving once again how effective the operation had been. Another successful mission. The local residents could finally breathe easier about their crops, at least for now. But we all understood clearly this was not the end. After the traps closed during the night, the most important part was never the moment of activation, but the way we returned to the site after. Daylight always reveals things the darkness hides, movement patterns, the level of impact, and most importantly, whether the trap structure managed to hold the entire herd. As we approached the area, there was no longer the chaos of the night before, only heavy movement from inside. I stopped before getting too close. Observe first. Always. The first signs became immediately clear. The ground around the trapdoor had been torn apart. The steel bars carried marks from repeated impacts, but there was no point of failure. That meant the system had held strong throughout the entire night. And when we looked inside, everything became undeniable. The entire herd had been contained. Not a single one remained outside. No signs of escape. Controlling wildlife in agricultural areas is not a direct confrontation. It is a process of reading behavior, rebuilding patterns, and waiting for the exact right moment to act. An effective trap is not only about its structure, but about how it is introduced into the environment without disrupting the herd's natural routine. When humans are patient enough to understand and disciplined enough not to act too early, control is no longer a matter of luck. It becomes a system.